Success has no age limit. Colonel Sanders proved it. At 65, with nothing but a recipe and determination, he built KFC into a worldwide brand. His story reminds us, it's never too late to start again. Part 1. Early Struggles. The Boy from Indiana. Harland David Sanders was born on September 9, 1890, in a small town called Henryville, Indiana, USA. His family was not rich. His father was a farmer, and his mother worked hard to take care of the children. When Harland was only 6 years old, something very sad happened. His father died suddenly. From that day, life became very difficult for the Sanders family. His mother had to find work outside the home, which meant that young Harland had to look after his younger brother and sister. Because his mother was busy working, Harland often had to cook for the family. At first, he was just a little boy, too small to handle the big pots. But slowly, he learned. He learned how to fry vegetables, bake bread, and cook meat. He discovered something new about himself. He actually enjoyed cooking. This responsibility made Harland different from many children his age. While other kids were playing outside, Harland was standing in front of the stove, learning how to make meals. He was not perfect, but every mistake taught him something. By the age of 7, he could prepare full meals for his family. This was the beginning of his long journey with food. But life was not only about cooking. Harland's family was very poor. He had to help in many ways, not just in the kitchen. He worked on the farm, did house chores, and tried to support his mother as much as possible. School was not easy either. Harland did not enjoy sitting in a classroom, and soon he lost interest in studying. By 7th grade, he left school and never returned. Many people might think this was the end of his future. A boy with no father, little money, and no education. How could he succeed? But Harland had something more powerful than books. He had determination. He had learned from a young age that life would not give him anything for free. If he wanted to survive, he needed to be strong, work hard, and keep moving forward. As a teenager, Harland took small jobs to earn money. He painted wagons, worked on farms, and did anything he could. He was not always successful, and sometimes people rejected him because he was too young or inexperienced. But instead of giving up, Harland tried again in a different way. One lesson Harland learned very early in life was this: failure is not the end. It is just a step toward something new. Losing his father was painful. Leaving school felt hopeless. But these struggles shaped his character. They gave him skills that many children never learned: cooking, working hard, and caring for others. Looking back, we can see that young Harland's life was full of problems. But inside those problems were also hidden gifts. Without his father's death, he might never have learned to cook. Without poverty, he might never have discovered how strong he could be. At this stage of his life, Harland was still just a poor boy from Indians. No one could imagine that one day this boy would create one of the most famous food businesses in the world. But greatness often begins in small kitchens, with small acts of responsibility. Part 2. A Hard Youth, Jobs and Failures. When Harland Sanders left school in 7th grade, he felt both free and uncertain. He no longer had to sit in classrooms that bored him, but he also knew that without education, life would be difficult. He was just a young teenager, but he had to survive. So, Harland began looking for work. His first jobs were simple. He worked on farms, planting crops, and feeding animals. He also painted wagons and fences. These jobs were not easy, and the pay was very small. But Harland did not complain. He knew that every little bit of money helped his family. As he grew older, Harland wanted to try bigger things. At the age of 16, he lied about his age and joined the U.S. Army. He served for 1 year in Cuba, but when his service ended, he had to find another path. Again, he was just a young man without a clear direction. Over the next years, Harland tried many different jobs. He worked as a streetcar conductor, guiding passengers and collecting fares. He became a farmhand again, then a railroad fireman, shoveling coal into steam engines. Later, he tried working as a blacksmith's helper, then as an insurance salesman. But one thing was always the same. Nothing lasted long. Harland often lost his jobs or quit because of disagreements. Sometimes his bosses thought he was too stubborn. Other times, the businesses failed, and he was left unemployed again. It felt like every time he started something, it ended too soon. At one point, Harland even studied law by correspondence. He dreamed of becoming a lawyer, wearing fine clothes, and earning respect. For a short time, it worked. He managed to practice law in Arkansas. But one day, after a fight in court with his own client, his career ended quickly. Once again, Harland had to search for another job. Most people would feel broken after so many failures. Imagine being rejected again and again, losing one job after another. It is painful and discouraging. But Harland did not stop. Each failure made him tougher. Each rejection gave him a lesson. Still, these years were not easy for him. He moved from town to town, from one job to another. He never felt stable. He never felt safe. Sometimes he had no money and no clear future. He felt restless, like he was always searching for something but never finding it. Even in these hard times, one thing remained true. Harland was willing to work. He was not lazy. He could shovel coal, sell insurance, or run a ferry boat. He tried almost everything. This spirit of trying, even after failure, became one of his greatest strengths. By his 20s and 30s, Harland Sanders had already lived many lives. He was a soldier, a farmhand, a fireman, a lawyer, and more. Yet, none of these jobs brought him lasting success. People around him probably thought he was just a failure, someone who could never stick to one path. But Harland himself was learning something deeper. He was learning that failure is not the end. Failure is practice. Failure is training. Every mistake, every rejection, every lost job was preparing him for something bigger. Of course, he did not know this yet. At that time, he only felt the pain of rejection and the struggle of survival. But inside him, a seed was growing, the seed of persistence, the refusal to quit. One day, that seed would bloom into something the whole world would recognize. Part 3. The Spirit of Never Giving Up. By the time Harland Sanders reached his 20s, he had already lived through more jobs than most people would in a lifetime. He had been a farm hand, a soldier, a railroad fireman, and even a painter. Each time, he thought he had found a path. But soon, something went wrong. Still, he did not let these failures destroy his will. One of Harland's most interesting attempts was when he studied law. For a while, it looked like he would finally have a serious career. He worked hard, studied late into the night, and passed the bar exam in Arkansas. At last, Harland Sanders was a lawyer. He wore neat clothes, stood in court, and argued cases. It was a proud moment for him, but even this dream fell apart quickly. One day, during a trial, Harland got into a fight with his own client. His temper was quick, and the situation ended badly. The result was the end of his law career. Once again, he had to start over. After law, Harland tried his hand at selling insurance. He went door to door, talking to families, offering them protection for the future. For a while, it worked. He made some sales and earned money. But his stubborn personality caused trouble with his employers. He argued with managers and sometimes broke the company's rules. In the end, he lost that job too. Next, Harland worked as a ferry boat operator. This job gave him new hope. He ran boats across a river, carrying people and cars. For once, it seemed stable. He even started his own ferry company. The work was hard, but business was steady, and people respected him. But soon, competition arrived, and his company went down. Another dream collapsed. Many people in Harland's situation would have given up by now. They would have thought, maybe I am just unlucky. Maybe I will never succeed. But Harland was different. He felt disappointed, yes. He felt angry at times, yes. But inside him lived a fire. The belief that he must keep trying, no matter what. Harland also worked as a railroad fireman. This was one of his toughest jobs. He shoveled coal into the hot engines of steam trains. The heat burned his skin, the smoke filled his lungs, and the hours were long. But he did it anyway. It was not a glamorous job, but it kept him alive. Through all these careers, one lesson kept repeating itself. Failure was temporary. Losing a job did not mean losing his life. Starting over was painful, but it was possible. Every time he fell, he stood up again. Harland did not yet know what he was truly meant to do, but he was building something more valuable than money or career. Persistence. Persistence means the ability to continue, even when things are hard, even when you feel tired, even when you fail again and again. Looking back, it is clear that these years were his training ground. Harland Sanders was not just learning jobs. He was learning survival. He was learning patience. He was learning how to stay strong when nothing seemed to go right. This spirit of never giving up would later become the most important part of his success. Without persistence, he never would have knocked on more than 1,000 doors with his chicken recipe. Without persistence, KFC would not exist today. At this stage of his life, Harland still looked like a man who failed too many times. But in reality, he was a man being shaped by failure, preparing for something greater. Part 4. The Service Station Years. After many years of trying different jobs and facing failures, Harland Sanders decided to settle down in a small town in Kentucky. He was still a restless man, always searching for stability. In the 1930s, he took over a gas station along a busy highway. At first, it was just a regular gas station. People came to fill their tanks and check their cars. Harland managed the station, pumped gas, and cleaned the area. But he noticed something interesting. Many travelers stopped not just to fill their cars, but also to rest and eat. Harland had spent much of his life cooking for his family, and he realized that food could be more than just survival. It could be a way to connect with people. He began to prepare simple meals for the travelers. At first, it was just breakfast: eggs, bacon, and biscuits. People liked his cooking, and word began to spread. Travelers said, "Try Sanders' food. It's good." Slowly, Harland saw an opportunity. He decided to focus more on food. He added lunch and dinner options. One of his favorite dishes was fried chicken. Harland experimented with different ways to cook it. He tried frying it in a skillet, then in a deeper pan, adjusting the oil and temperature. He tried different seasonings, mixing herbs and spices until the flavor was just right. Eventually, he discovered something extraordinary. His fried chicken was not like anything travelers had tasted before. It was crispy on the outside, juicy on the inside, and full of flavor. People came not just for gas, but just to eat his chicken. Running the gas station and cooking meals was not easy. Harland worked long hours, from early morning until late at night. He pumped gas, cleaned floors, cooked meals, served customers, and washed dishes. It was exhausting, but he loved it. He discovered his true talent, cooking food that made people happy. This was a turning point in Harland Sanders's life. For the first time, he felt that he had found something he could do well. It was a combination of his past experience, his hard work, and his determination to never give up. Cooking became more than just work. It became his passion. Travelers kept coming. Families on long road trips stopped at his station for his famous fried chicken. Word spread from town to town. People told their friends, and soon Harland's meals were known far beyond the gas station. At this stage, Harland Sanders was still far from becoming rich or famous. He was just a man with a gas station and a secret fried chicken recipe. But this simple discovery, that he could cook something people loved, would eventually become the foundation for one of the most famous food businesses in the world. It was here, in a small Kentucky gas station kitchen, that Harland Sanders learned his most important lesson yet. Find what you are good at, work hard at it, and share it with others. This lesson would guide him through future failures and successes. Part 5. Building a local name. After years of cooking for travelers at his gas station, Harland Sanders realized that people were coming more for his food than for gas. He saw an opportunity. Why not focus entirely on cooking and serving meals? In the late 1930s, Harland decided to open a small restaurant near his gas station. It was not fancy. The building was simple, with a few tables and chairs, but Harland wanted it to feel welcoming. People could sit, eat, and enjoy meals together. The restaurant became popular quickly. Travelers and locals alike came for his fried chicken, his biscuits, and other home-cooked meals. But Harland was not satisfied with just good food. He wanted something extraordinary, a dish that people would remember forever. He began experimenting with fried chicken. He tried different types of flour, oils, and cooking methods. He added herbs and spices, one at a time, adjusting each ingredient until the taste was perfect. After many trials, he created a special blend of 11 herbs and spices. This secret recipe gave the chicken a unique flavor, crisp on the outside, tender and juicy inside, and full of taste that people could not forget. Harland Sanders became more than just a local cook. People started calling him Colonel Sanders because he was officially given the honorary title of Kentucky Colonel in 1935. The title reflected his hard work, dedication, and service to the community. Soon, Colonel Sanders's restaurant became famous in the area. People would travel for miles to taste his chicken. Families, travelers, and even local businesses praised him for his delicious meals. Word of mouth spread quickly. The combination of friendly service, a welcoming restaurant, and his unique fried chicken made him a local celebrity. But Colonel Sanders did not stop there. He understood that consistency was key. Every chicken had to taste perfect, every customer had to feel welcome, and every meal had to reflect his dedication. He trained his staff carefully, ensuring that the quality of the food never dropped. By the early 1940s, the restaurant had a strong reputation. Colonel Sanders's name was no longer just a person. It had become a symbol of great food and hospitality. Locals respected him, travelers remembered him, and his fame grew steadily. This period taught Colonel Sanders an important lesson. True success comes from passion, dedication, and attention to detail. By focusing on what he loved, perfecting it, and sharing it with others, he had built not just a business, but a name that people trusted. Even though Colonel Sanders was still far from becoming a billionaire, his reputation and skill were laying the foundation for something much bigger. From a small gas station to a local restaurant, he had proven that hard work and persistence could turn a simple idea into something memorable. Part 6. The Big Loss and the New Start. By the 1950s, Colonel Harland Sanders had built a successful restaurant business in Kentucky. His fried chicken was famous, travelers came from far away, and his reputation as a cook and a friendly host was strong. Life seemed to be going well. But then, something unexpected happened, and it changed everything. The highway that passed by his restaurant was rerouted. A new interstate bypassed the town completely, and fewer travelers stopped at his restaurant. The traffic he had relied on for years disappeared almost overnight. Suddenly, Colonel Sanders faced a harsh reality. His once thriving restaurant was losing money. The business he had built from scratch, with decades of hard work, was collapsing. He tried to make adjustments, smaller portions, cheaper prices, even moving some of his meals to local stores, but nothing worked. At the age of 65, most people might think it was time to retire quietly. Many of his friends suggested he give up. After all, he had worked hard all his life. He could live on a small pension and enjoy his remaining years. But Colonel Sanders was not like most people. He had faced rejection, failure, and hardship before, and he had always found a way forward. Instead of giving up, he made a bold decision. He would start again. Even though he had little money, no restaurant, and was considered too old by many, he refused to let this setback define him. He sold his restaurant and began living modestly on his pension, but in his heart, he had a plan. Colonel Sanders began thinking creatively. He realized that he did not need a restaurant to share his famous fried chicken. He could take his recipe to other people. If his chicken could travel with him, other restaurants could serve it, and more people could enjoy it. This period of his life taught him something very important. It is never too late to start over. Age, loss, and failure are not barriers. They are challenges to overcome. Even at 65, Colonel Sanders was ready to take a new path. With determination in his heart, he prepared to leave his hometown, traveling across the country to offer his chicken recipe to others. He carried with him a small pressure cooker, a notebook with his secret blend of 11 herbs and spices, and the lessons of a lifetime of hard work. This was a turning point. Colonel Sanders had lost everything he had built. But he had not lost his spirit. Instead, he transformed his loss into a new beginning, one that would eventually change the fast food industry forever. Part 7. Knocking on Doors with Chicken. After losing his restaurant and living modestly on a pension, Colonel Harland Sanders was not ready to retire. At 65 years old, most people would have given up, but he had a plan. He believed in his fried chicken, and he believed that other restaurants could succeed by serving it. With his secret recipe written carefully in a notebook and a small pressure cooker packed in his car, Colonel Sanders began traveling across the United States. He went from town to town, visiting diners, small restaurants, and local food shops. He offered them a simple idea: cook my chicken in your restaurant, and we will share the profits. But it was not easy. Many restaurant owners rejected him. Some laughed at the ideas. Others said he was too old. Some even told him, "No one wants to try this. We don't need your chicken." Colonel Sanders faced rejection after rejection, over 1,000 times. Every no could have broken his spirit. Every door slammed in his face could have ended his journey. But Colonel Sanders remembered the lessons of his youth. Failure is not final. Persistence is the key, and hard work always pays off eventually. He knocked on door after door, drove hundreds of miles, and slept in motels or in his car. He cooked chicken for restaurant owners, gave samples, and explained his secret recipe. Slowly, one by one, people began to notice the quality of his chicken. It was different. It was better. The first restaurant to accept his idea was a small diner in Salt Lake City. The owner agreed to try Colonel Sanders's chicken recipe. It became a success immediately. Customers loved it. Sales increased, and other restaurant owners started asking how they could serve the same fried chicken. Colonel Sanders' persistence was paying off. He realized that his idea could grow far beyond Kentucky. If more restaurants adopted his recipe, his fried chicken could reach thousands of people. And so, he began offering more franchises, agreements where other restaurant owners could cook his chicken in exchange for a small fee. This period of his life was both exhausting and exciting. At an age when most people retire, Colonel Sanders was traveling, teaching, and building a brand. Every rejection he faced only made him stronger. Every success motivated him to keep going. By the late 1950s, Colonel Sanders had successfully franchised his fried chicken in dozens of restaurants across the United States. People were beginning to know the name Colonel Sanders, and the popularity of his chicken was growing. He had taken a simple idea, his family-style fried chicken, and turned it into a business model that others could replicate. Through it all, one lesson was clear. No matter your age, no matter how many times you fail, persistence and belief in your talent can create extraordinary success. Colonel Sanders's journey showed that doors may be closed many times, but the right combination of patience, determination, and skill can open the ones that matter most. Part 8. From Colonel to Billionaire. After years of traveling, facing rejections, and teaching other restaurant owners his secret fried chicken recipe, Colonel Harland Sanders finally began to see the fruits of his hard work. By the 1960s, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, was growing rapidly across the United States. Restaurants everywhere wanted to serve his chicken. The franchise system worked perfectly. Colonel Sanders's secret recipe and cooking method, combined with the effort of restaurant owners, created a business model that was successful and profitable. Customers loved the taste, the consistency, and the story of the friendly Colonel behind the food. As KFC expanded, Colonel Sanders became a symbol of the brand. His image, the white suit, black string tie, and friendly smile, appeared on packaging, advertisements, and television. People recognized him instantly, and the story of his persistence and hard work added value to the brand. In 1964, Colonel Sanders sold his company for several $1 million. But he didn't disappear. He stayed involved as a brand ambassador, traveling to promote KFC, appearing in commercials, and continuing to ensure that the quality of his fried chicken remained high. His dedication kept the company connected to its roots, even as it became a global business. Over the years, KFC continued to grow internationally. Colonel Sanders had started with a small gas station restaurant in Kentucky, and now his chicken was being served in hundreds of locations around the world. From the United States to Europe, Asia, and beyond, people everywhere recognized the taste of KFC. Through this journey, Colonel Sanders became more than a successful businessman. He became an icon of persistence and determination. He had faced poverty, job losses, multiple failures, and rejections. Yet, he never gave up. Even at 65, when most people think of retiring, he started the journey that made him a billionaire and a worldwide figure. Colonel Sanders' story is a lesson for everyone. It doesn't matter how old you are, how many times you fail, or how many doors close in your face. With hard work, patience, and belief in your own skills, extraordinary success is possible. Part 9, KFC, From Small Kitchen to Global Brand. What began as a small gas station in Kentucky, with a man cooking for travelers, eventually became one of the most famous food brands in the world. After Colonel Sanders franchised his fried chicken across the United States, the next step was international expansion. The first international KFC opened in Canada in 1965, followed by locations in the United Kingdom, Mexico, and Japan. Colonel Sanders' simple idea, delicious fried chicken made with a secret blend of 11 herbs and spices, proved to be a universal favorite. People everywhere loved the taste, and soon KFC restaurants were opening in cities across the globe. KFC's international growth was remarkable. In Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, people discovered the unique flavor of Colonel Sanders' fried chicken. The restaurant's quick service, friendly environment, and consistent quality made it a favorite for families, travelers, and students alike. No matter where you went, KFC offered something familiar and comforting, a taste of the original Colonel Sanders' recipe. Colonel Sanders' story also became part of KFC's brand. Customers were not just buying fried chicken. They were buying the story of a man who started from nothing, worked hard, and never gave up. The image of the Colonel, white suit, black string tie, and friendly smile, became recognizable in every country. His story inspired trust, and people loved not only the food, but the values behind it: perseverance, quality, and dedication. Over the decades, KFC grew to thousands of restaurants worldwide, making it one of the largest fast food chains in history. Its success was not just about the food, it was about a story that connected with people. The combination of taste, speed, and the human story of Colonel Sanders made KFC a global phenomenon. Even today, people in Asia, Europe, the Americas, and Africa enjoy the fried chicken that started in a small Kentucky kitchen. KFC became more than a restaurant. It became a symbol of how determination, creativity, and passion can turn a small idea into a worldwide success. The journey from a young boy in Indiana to a man whose recipe was served in thousands of restaurants worldwide shows the power of persistence. Colonel Sanders taught the world that it is never too late to follow your dream, no matter the obstacles. KFC is not just famous for its chicken. It is famous because of the story of the Colonel. A story of hard work, failures, comebacks, and unstoppable spirit. From a small kitchen to the global stage, KFC's rise proves that great things happen when talent meets persistence and courage. Success has no age limit. Colonel Sanders proved it. At 65, with nothing but a recipe and determination, he built KFC into a worldwide brand. His story reminds us it's never too late to start again. Colonel Sanders' story teaches us something important. Life will not always be easy. You may face failure, rejection, or loss. But remember, success can come at any age if you never give up. Keep going, keep trying, and one day your hard work will shine. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to English Echo Stories for more simple English stories that help you learn and grow. See you in the next video.